Walmart just brought in a new round of summer stock, and a lot of these items tend to sell out within days of hitting the shelves. 13 items employees are quietly grabbing first, the kind you should pick up before the shelves go bare. You'd be awesome if you subscribed and liked this video. One Ninja Creamy Ice Cream Maker. The freezer's empty on a summer night, 3 kids are begging for ice cream, and you don't feel like driving to the store at 9 o'clock. That's exactly why the Ninja Creamy Ice Cream Maker, priced at $199.99, sells so well in the housewares section. It doesn't sound cheap for a kitchen appliance at first glance, but the math tells a different story. A premium pint of ice cream at the grocery store already runs close to $7, and a family of 4 can polish one off in a single evening. Do that twice a week, and it adds up to more than $50 a month, while a homemade batch from milk and fruit costs about $2 in ingredients. The machine runs at roughly 300 watts, strong enough to blend a frozen mixture into smooth, soft serve without any thawing beforehand. The standard pint container holds 16 ounces, enough for one serving split between 2 adults or a hungry kid. Compared to old-fashioned ice cream makers that need rock salt and ice and 40 minutes of hand cranking, this one takes about 2 to 3 minutes of processing once the mix is already frozen solid. It turns yogurt, almond milk, or whey protein into soft, creamy ice cream after just a few minutes of spinning with no refined sugar and no preservatives. A lot of people even stir espresso powder into the milk mixture to make their own coffee ice cream for a lot less than buying it at a shop. The freezer pint needs about 24 hours to fully harden before spinning. So many households prep 3 or 4 pints at once, each using about half a gallon of milk, so the freezer never runs dry. The pints and lids are all dishwasher safe. No scrubbing by hand like the sticky, sugar-crusted tubs from old-school ice cream makers. It comes with a 12-month warranty, enough peace of mind to get through a whole summer without worrying about the motor giving out halfway through. 2. Better Homes and Gardens Charcuterie Board. It's just a simple wood board, but loaded up with a few slices of cheese, some grapes, and crackers, and the whole table looks like it took all afternoon to put together. It's priced at just $15.98, a lot cheaper than the specialty serving boards at home decor stores, where similar-looking trays often start at $35 and up with thinner materials, sometimes just plywood with a wood veneer instead of solid wood like this one. The board runs about 16 inches long, wide enough to lay out 3 or 4 different cheeses side by side without them overlapping. The thickness, close to an inch, keeps it from warping after repeated hand washing, unlike the thin plywood boards under half an inch thick that show up in cheaper trays. Acacia wood is the go-to choice for this kind of product because of its dense grain, which absorbs less water than softer woods. So drying it right after washing and rubbing in a little mineral oil every few months keeps it looking polished for years. The size works for 4 to 6 people sharing at once. Without being so bulky, it's hard to fit in a tight kitchen cabinet. The real value isn't the material, it's how it turns an ordinary meal into a small occasion worth remembering. It works for weekend movie nights, a late breakfast with a close friend, or even solo meals when you want to feel a little more put together instead of eating straight off plastic packaging. For bigger family gatherings, lining up a few boards together to form one long spread costs a lot less than renting serving equipment from a catering service, which can easily run over $100 for one evening. This is one of the few items under $20 worth grabbing right away if you've got guests coming this weekend. 3. Beautiful by Drew Barrymore Programmable Toaster. A lot of shoppers walk right past this one, assuming it's just an ordinary toaster. At $39.98, with a clean design and precisely calibrated toast settings, this machine turns a rushed morning into a slightly more refined routine. It runs at about 800 watts, strong enough to toast 2 slices evenly in about 1.5 to 2 minutes depending on the setting. 7 browning levels let you dial in everything from soft bread to a thick bagel without guessing, unlike toasters with a single mechanical dial. The slots are about 1.5 inches wider than standard, wide enough for a thick bagel or homemade bread that's chunkier than the store-bought loaves. No more toast burnt on one side and pale on the other. Every press gives you the same level of crispness, something a lot of toasters under $20 stop delivering after a few months, once the internal springs wear down and the browning turns inconsistent. The softly rounded shape and neutral color mean it usually stays out on the counter instead of tucked away in a cabinet, more like a piece of decor than an appliance. The removable crumb tray slides out for easy cleaning, a small detail, but for older shoppers, it's often the favorite feature, since a lot of the old toasters at home don't have this and require flipping the whole thing upside down just to shake out the crumbs. The cord wraps neatly around the base, too, keeping the counter tidy instead of leaving a dangling cord in the way. But the next item on the list has nothing to do with the kitchen, and it's one of the fastest sellers every time a new color hits the shelf. 4. Free assembly long sleeve cardigan. It's under $20, but wearing it feels like something worth 3 times the price. New colors usually sell out within the first 2 days of restocking, especially the popular ones like tan and olive green. The fabric blends about 60% cotton and 40% polyester, a ratio that keeps its shape wash after wash without stretching out at the cuffs the way pure cotton sweaters often do. Sizes run from small to plus sizes, and the color lineup usually rotates by season, so whatever's on the shelf now might not come back next season. The knit is medium weight, not too thick for summer air conditioning, and not so thin that it shows your undershirt like some cheap summer cardigans. This cardigan doesn't have any fancy details, no itchy fabric, no visible seams. It's simply well fitted, warm enough for a chilly morning, and light enough to layer without feeling stuffy. The fabric has a slight stretch that layers well over a thick blouse without pulling tight at the shoulders, something a lot of pure wool cardigans struggle with, and it doesn't pill after a few washes like some cheaper knits. Put it on and you look pulled together even if you got out of bed 10 minutes ago. It costs less than a fast food meal for 2, around $22, but it mixes and matches with a lot more of your wardrobe than plenty of pricier pieces. A lot of shoppers grab 3 different colors at once to wear from early fall through late winter without getting bored of it. No hand washing, no fussy ironing, just put it on and go, which is exactly why it's become an everyday staple for work, school runs, and weekend coffee dates. 5. Hamilton Beach 8-quart slow cooker. This pot doesn't just cook food, it saves what's left of your energy at the end of the day. Toss the ingredients in before work in the morning, and when you get home 8 or 9 hours later, dinner's ready and warm. No standing over the stove after a long day. The oval shape fits a whole chicken or a big pork shoulder, something round pots of the same capacity often can't handle. Power draw is only about 200 watts on the low setting, far less than running a big oven for hours straight, so the electric bill barely moves even after cooking all day. The clear glass lid lets you check on the food without lifting it, keeping heat and moisture steady instead of dropping the temperature every time you peek like you would with an opaque lid. The lid also locks down on both sides, handy for carrying to a potluck or a family gathering without worrying about sauce spilling in the car on the way there. The 8-quart size is plenty for a family of 6 to 8, or for anyone who likes to cook once on the weekend and portion it out into containers to freeze. One big batch of stew can be split into 6 meals for the week. No guilt over ordering takeout, which for a family of 4 can easily run $30 to $40 a pop. No complicated touchscreen, no app to figure out, just 3 basic heat settings that cover most stews and soups you'd ever want to make. 6. Better Homes and Gardens Fluted Glass Tumblers. At just $3 a piece, these feel like something from a much pricier product line the moment you pick one up. This shelf tends to empty out faster than it gets restocked, since almost nobody buys just 1 or 2. Each glass holds about 16 ounces, enough for a full glass of ice water or a mixed drink without needing a refill halfway through. The glass at the base is noticeably thicker than the flimsy tumblers that usually come in sets under $10, so it holds up better against bumps when washing a sink full of dishes. The slightly flared rim lets the glasses nest neatly when stacked, a detail a lot of cheaper straight-sided tumblers skip entirely. The wavy texture catches light just enough, and the heft gives it a solid, expensive feel, making even a plain glass of water look fancier than a regular plastic cup. They're dishwasher safe, and they don't cloud up or scratch the way cheaper glasses do after repeated washing, holding up well for close to 2 years without cracking. A lot of people buy a few to try them out and end up replacing every plastic cup in the house, including the kids' cups, since the glass is noticeably thicker than most of the thin, breakable tumblers out there. It's not about needing them, it's about how obvious the difference is every time you open the cabinet. A set of 6 or 8 runs about $18 to $24. But looking at them, nobody would guess they're only a few dollars each. They hold up over the years, and they cost less than a morning coffee at most coffee shops. The next item is from a completely different part of the store, and it's one of the most talked about finds among serious deal hunters. 7. Nellius High-Waist Workout Leggings 2-Pack. Under $30 for 2 pairs, but plenty of people say these beat out $90 name brand leggings they've tried before. The fabric blend, about 15% spandex, gives 4-way stretch that moves with squats and stretches without turning see-through, a common failure point for cheaper leggings after repeated washing. The waistband sits about 8 inches high, roughly 2 inches higher than a standard waistband, enough to stay put when you bend over and not slide down during long stretches of sitting at a desk. The fabric has a light moisture-wicking finish on the surface, pulling sweat away faster instead of soaking back into the skin the way regular cotton blend fabric does. Sizes run from small all the way to 3XL, rarely available at this price point on a typical gym apparel shelf. No bunching at the knees, no slipping at the waist, and no losing shape after repeated machine washes, even with hot water washes that a lot of busy families rely on. Plenty of people wear these through a 4-hour flight and straight into the gym without any discomfort, and the high waistband doesn't dig into the skin like some cheaper pairs do. The side pockets are big enough to hold a phone and keys, something a lot of pricier gym leggings still overlook. Whether you're running errands, chasing after little kids, or actually working out, the fabric moves with your body instead of fighting it. It's practically a quiet rebellion against paying a premium just for a logo. At this price, it's not just gym wear anymore, it's become an everyday staple that plenty of middle-aged women reach for instead of jeans on busy days. 8. HomeZone Black Handcrafted Wire Basket. At first glance, it's just a $9.97 wire basket. But once you start using it, you realize it's less of a storage bin and more of a system for keeping clutter under control. The metal wire frame holds weight well, sturdy enough to load up with soda cans or dry goods without bending out of shape the way thinner, cheaper wire baskets do over time. A powder-coated finish on the wire resists rust near sinks or damp spots, unlike bare steel wire that tends to discolor within months. The common size runs about 12 inches long, fitting neatly on a standard kitchen shelf or a corner of a console table without taking up much room. The flat bottom and squared edges also let you stack 2 or 3 of these when not in use, saving space in storage or the garage. Mail, snacks, charging cables, kids' toys, and anything cluttering up the counter or the floor get corralled here in a way that still looks good. Plenty of families use one for fruit on the kitchen island and pick up 3 more for towels, canned goods in the pantry, and keys by the front door, reorganizing the whole house for under $40 total. Unlike flimsy plastic bins that crack after a year or two, this basket is sturdy, has a modern look, and stays neutral enough to fit any room, whether it's a modern living room or a classic farmhouse kitchen. Clutter doesn't just take up space, it quietly drains your energy every time you glance at a messy corner before heading out the door in the morning. For under $10, this is a tool that brings order in just a few minutes. Nothing flashy, but it works every single day. 9. Ninja Foodi 6-in-1 Dual Zone Air Fryer. This isn't the ordinary air fryer you've seen before. What sets it apart are 2 independent cooking zones side by side, letting you cook 2 completely different foods at once without one waiting on the other. Each zone runs its own temperature and time and finishes together automatically. Each zone has a temperature range from about 105 to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, wide enough to go from dehydrating fruit at a low setting to crisping up chicken wings at high heat with just a few taps on the screen. Total wattage runs around 1,760 watts, still using less power than running a large oven for the same amount of time. 6 built-in cooking modes cover air fry, bake, roast, dehydrate, reheat, and cook from frozen, enough to replace at least 3 separate kitchen appliances a lot of households used to own. Combined capacity across both zones comes to 8 quarts, enough for a dinner for 4 without cooking in 2 batches. No more one dish going cold while the other one finishes. For families with picky eaters, this is a real game changer. One side cooks chicken nuggets for the kids while the other roasts salmon or vegetables for the adults, both done at the same time in about 15 to 20 minutes instead of cooking everything in one dish at a time over nearly 40 minutes. It uses a lot less oil than deep frying, cutting oil use by up to 80% compared to deep-fried food, makes less mess than an oven, and cooks faster than working through dishes one at a time on the stovetop. Both zones share one grease tray underneath, and the baskets are non-stick and dishwasher safe, so cleanup after dinner takes just a few minutes instead of scrubbing 2 separate greasy pans. It's a lifestyle upgrade disguised as a compact countertop appliance made for any busy weeknight. But the next item is cheaper than everything mentioned so far, and it makes the biggest everyday difference in your home. 10 Mainstays Velvet Hangers 50-pack. 50 velvet hangers for just $19.98, less than 40 cents each. Each hanger is only about a 1/4 inch thick, nearly half as thin as a standard plastic hanger, which is why the same closet rod holds far more clothes. They still hold up under heavy wool coats thanks to a sturdy plastic core wrapped in velvet, without snapping the way thin, cheap plastic hangers do. The velvet surface grips much better than a slick plastic hanger, so thin camisoles or silky blouses stay put instead of sliding off onto the closet floor like they would on metal or shiny plastic hangers. There are small notches on both shoulders to hold bra straps or camisole straps in place, a small but handy detail plastic hangers usually lack. No more bulky plastic hangers, no more clothes slipping off the rod every time you open the closet, no more wrestling one more shirt into an already packed space. Since they're all the same size, clothes hang evenly instead of at odd angles, making the closet look a lot bigger without actually removing anything. The same 4-foot rod can hold a dozen more shirts compared to using old plastic hangers. Heavy coats still get proper support, and delicate blouses don't wrinkle or slide off either. A lot of people start out buying these just for the main closet, then come back for the kids' closets and the coat closet by the front door. 3 boxes for 3 different spots that still add up to less than $60 total. Nothing fancy, no high tech, but this is exactly the kind of low-cost change that makes a real difference every time you open the closet door. 11. Manual rotary grater. Not an electric appliance and doesn't need to be plugged in, but this hand crank grater is a great fit for anyone starting to cook more at home. The set typically comes with 3 stainless steel drums at different coarseness levels, from a coarse shred for carrots to a fine grate for hard cheeses like Parmesan. Since there's no exposed blade like a traditional flat grater, the risk of cutting yourself while washing it is a lot lower. The clamp-style handle locks onto the edge of a bowl or plate, staying steady while you crank without needing to hold the body steady with one hand like some cheaper hand graters that tend to slip. Load in cheese, carrots, or hard nuts, crank the handle a few turns, and you've got freshly grated food without a grater blade nicking your fingers, usually taking under a minute for a block of cheese for a pasta dish. It cuts prep time way down compared to grating by hand bit by bit, especially handy when guests are over and you need something quick. For older adults dealing with joint pain in their fingers, this is a lot easier than gripping a stiff grater for several minutes straight. No motor noise, no washing sharp blades afterward, just take apart the 3 main pieces and rinse them off, and all 3 drums are dishwasher safe. Even kids can help turn the handle without any risk of getting cut like they might with a knife, turning meal prep into something the whole family can pitch in on. It's a small item at a very reasonable price that solves one everyday hassle a lot of households deal with every night. 12. Ozark Trail Cooler. The most common question in the outdoor section every summer is which cooler to grab for a camping trip or a weekend cookout. Thick walls keep ice frozen a lot longer than cheap foam coolers, holding ice solid for 2 to 3 days straight, even under summer sun, thanks to more than an inch of insulation packed into the walls. A drain plug at the bottom lets you empty out melted ice water without flipping the whole heavy cooler over, a small detail that really helps once it's packed full of drinks and ice. The lid has a rubber gasket that seals tight, cutting down on lost cold air even after sitting in the sun for hours. The outer shell is treated to resist UV rays so it doesn't crack or fade after a few summers in the sun like the plastic used in cheaper coolers. The most popular size holds about 26 quarts, enough for close to 36 cans of soda, plus ice for a backyard party of 8 to 10 people. The lid is sturdy enough to sit on and hold an adult's weight, and the handles are strong enough to carry even when it's packed full of drinks. For anyone who fishes, hits the beach, or hosts backyard cookouts all summer, this is the kind of product that lasts for years, not something that barely survives one summer before getting tossed like a flimsy foam cooler. Sizes range from small carry coolers to big ones for the trunk of your car, which is why a lot of people end up buying a second one just to keep food and drinks separate. If you're planning to buy before the peak grilling season, now's the time to look, since Walmart's outdoor section usually starts marking things down gradually starting late August as summer winds down. Buying now to use for the rest of the summer usually makes more sense than waiting for a discount and losing half the season. The last item on this list has to do with something few people think about when they walk into Walmart, and that's your own sleep at night. 13. Mainstays weighted blanket. A lot of people toss and turn every night from stress and worry, sometimes staying awake until nearly 2 in the morning without being able to fall asleep. The even pressure across your body from the blanket's weight feels like being gently hugged, something plenty of users describe as making it easier to drift off compared to a regular blanket. The weighted filling inside is usually tiny glass beads rather than coarse plastic pellets, keeping the blanket softer against the skin and quieter when you shift positions at night. The outer shell is usually stitched into small quilted squares, keeping the beads evenly spread out in each pocket instead of bunching up in one corner like weighted blankets without stitched sections. Sizes range from a twin for one person to a queen for 2 people sharing, so getting the right size matters just as much as getting the right weight. The common weight range runs from 12 to 15 pounds depending on bed size, and a blanket weighing about 10% of your body weight usually feels the most comfortable without feeling like it's pressing down too hard to breathe. It's usually priced around $35, a lot less than premium name brand weighted blankets that run over $100. No sleep medication needed, no complicated electronics, just a blanket designed with evenly distributed pockets to prevent the filling from clumping to one side, keeping the weight balanced all night even if you shift positions repeatedly. The outer fabric is soft and machine washable at home, working well for both older adults and younger people dealing with nighttime anxiety. Not every sleep problem gets solved by a blanket, but for anyone who just needs a bit more of that secure feeling to relax before bed, this is a small investment that pays off a lot more than its plain look suggests. What all 13 of these items have in common isn't the low price, it's how much real, everyday use you get out of them. The simplest rule when shopping at Walmart is to watch for shelves that empty out fast in the middle of the week rather than just looking at weekend clearance signs, since that's the real sign of something worth buying. Cheap items that last always beat expensive items that sit unused. Shop smart out there.